Hi everybody, it's Sweetsa here at Emanate. Welcome back to another Mindful Monday. Today's topic is triggers. So we ultimately want to make decisions from our prefrontal cortex. In a perfect world, we'd be regulated, rational beings that function well throughout our day. But ultimately, this is a thing called life, and there are things that happen that end up triggering us. So a trigger is something that sets off an old tape or a memory that basically transports you back to an event. Sometimes something that you see can trigger you, something someone said, even sometimes touch or taste can trigger you back to an event. And really how it works is I'd want you to imagine a trigger bus. You as your adult self want to be driving your bus. You want to be fully self-aware, regulated, rational, and present in your decision. But ultimately, something will end up triggering you, and what ends up happening is your brain gets hijacked. So I want you to picture your 7-year-old self or your 15-year-old self in the back of the bus. So again, if something that happened triggered my 7-year-old self where I was humiliated, that person is now actually driving the brain, figuratively, of course. And where that becomes a problem, right, is because you're no longer regulated and you're no longer functioning out of a rational brain. So I'd like to provide a real life example. So growing up, my parents were doers. They were hardworking people, getting up at 2:30 in the morning and going till the wee hours of night. Being idle wasn't something that was honored in my household. So before COVID, I went out to lunch with a friend of mine and she asked me how my morning was. And I said, "Oh, I had a great morning. I slept until 8:30. And she made the comment, "Oh, wow, 8:30, that must have been nice." So it was the simplest comment, but it actually triggered me. And now my 7-year-old self, my 10-year-old self was driving my bus, right? So my brain was hijacked. So I'm having these irrational thoughts, or thoughts like, does she think I'm lazy? Should I have gotten up earlier? I should have been more productive this morning. So the problem with this is I was triggered and I'm no longer in the presence with her. So one thing to remember is that you can't prevent yourself from being triggered about something, especially if you've lived enough life. But it's when we take our trigger and then our irrational thoughts and we actually proceed to action. And what I mean by that is a lot of times we try to stay ahead of our shame. So my shame exists about being idle, right? So I could have done a couple of things during that lunchtime with my friend. I could have spent the time trying to prove to her how not lazy I am. I could have then left that lunch and gone home and made a schedule for the rest of the week of productivity. There are things that I could have done based on my younger self driving the bus, and based on a comment that I was triggered by. I would have made a decision to stay ahead of my shame. We try to run away from the pain of feeling lazy or not good enough. Takeaway here is that you never really want to take action from your trigger or your irrational thoughts. Your main focus is to get yourself driving your bus again. Not solving a problem, not fixing it. It's basically to get yourself regulated and then decide what to do from there. So I hope that helps. Emanate your best selves. Till next time.